Hello and welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. We recap WWE SmackDown every Friday night after the bell. But this is a special night because we're doing it on Wednesday instead. My name is John Zindel. This is Dom Scarcella. Dom, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Technically, this is after the bell. It's a few days after the bell, but hey, why not? It's Thanksgiving Eve. It's kind of a celebration for a big holiday weekend. Survivor Series is on Saturday, but before that, we had a pretty big SmackDown that included some Survivor Series announcements for us on Friday, November 17th. So without further ado, John, don't bury the lead. What's our top story coming out of this SmackDown?
Dom, we don't ever bury the lead. And the lead is in the main event here, which is a little segment we have. And Becky Lynch appears as the fourth member. So at Survivor Series, Becky Lynch will be joining Charlotte, Shotzi, and Bianca. And they're going to be going against Damage Control. Dom, what did you think of this main event segment?
I had to check my watch. I had to check my calendar. Last year's Survivor Series, War Games, Becky Lynch was the big reveal on Bianca Belair's team as the last member. They did it again this year. There wasn't much of a reveal.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. I totally
There
forgot.
wasn't. Becky Lynch scored the pinfall at last year's War Games on Bianca's team. When they were setting this up earlier in the show, they were making it sound like, oh, Bianca was going to have to. Bianca was talking with Shotzi and Charlotte Flair and saying, Charlotte, you got to call somebody. Do you have this person in mind you're going to call? And I thought it was going to be like Jade Cargill.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason why Charlotte should have to call Becky Lynch. Bianca called her last year.
Right.
So this was anticlimactic for me. Becky Lynch is a great performer. This will probably be a fun War Games again, although it's 4-on-4 this time instead of 5-on-5. But last year it was Bianca's team versus kind of a Damage Control dominated team with Bayley. And this year it's a lot of the same moving parts. Charlotte Flair is new. Shotzi is new. Asuka is switching teams. She was on Team Bianca last year's War Games. But Bayley and Io Sky are there again. Kairi is going to be the newest member of Damage Control along with Asuka. She's going to be in it again. But this is the Bianca versus Bayley thing again. So they're doing it again. And I don't mind rehashing things. The original War Games was every year Dusty Rhodes versus like the Four Horsemen, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't mind that they repeat stuff, but if you're going to repeat stuff, don't play it so coy.
You don't want the surprise fourth entrance to be a disappointment.
It's not a surprise. Who was surprised by them rerunning last year's things? I mean, you're surprised in a bad way, like, oh, they had 12 months and couldn't come up with a better idea?
Man, Jade must not be ready or something, because they already premiered her 2 pay-per-views ago. Am I wrong?
Yeah, she showed up almost dressed like she was going to wrestle, except that she had high-heeled boots on.
Yeah, she was here weeks ago.
Yes.
And that would make sense. Oh, she'll be the fourth member at Survivor Series.
It would also make sense why Charlotte would have to call her, because Charlotte would have a connection to her. Her husband wrestles in AEW. They already had the face-off on one of the SmackDowns with the two of them. So that would have made sense. Charlotte's got to call this person that nobody else knows.
So the
new wrestler.
So, oh my God. So they actually teased it and it looked like, oh yeah, it's going to be Jade. This is going to be good. And then instead they did the person that had the horrific Jeopardy score.
Uh-oh. It's getting cheap in here. Not yet, John. Don't do us to it yet. We got to stay at least middle class for a little longer. It's not cheap yet.
Yeah. I know. I know. I'm jumping the gun here. I'm
I like Becky Lynch, but this just wasn't reveal worthy.
I know it was. It's one of those things where I guess they always want to build it as a fourth member as a surprise, but what are you gonna do? Anything else from this segment that you like, dislike?
The schmaz wasn't much to write home about.
Hmm.
I mean, there are some good pull apart brawls, and then there are some things that don't look very good. And this was not a good pull apart brawl. I think this will be a fun match at War Games, but this was, I don't know, it seemed anticlimactic the way they set it up, and then the reveal, and then the half hearted schmaz at the end.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of, or I should say, it's kind of funny you point out that they didn't reveal, who they've been alluding to with Jade
Mhm.
Cargill, and I wonder from the men's side, there's all the swirling rumors with CM Punk returning to Chicago. And I wonder if that will also be a fourth member that's a bit disappointing when he doesn't show.
They tried to address that on Raw if you saw the clips of it, since we're now live streaming not only after SmackDown, but after the Monday Raw. So
Mm,
they did try to address that because they probably had the same fear that you did, that they're in Chicago. And if there's like a mystery fifth member of that team, now that Drew McIntyre joined the Judgment Day team to be the fifth member, who's the fifth man?
hmm.
And yeah, there was probably going to be a lot of CM Punk rumors. We'll spill the beans since it's already out on the internet. It's supposed to be Randy Orton.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's supposed to be the return of Randy Orton, but he did not appear on Monday Night Raw. They just mentioned his name. Cody Rhodes was talking about Vipers and talking about his song, and everybody caught it and started cheering, chanting for Randy Orton. So they know it's Randy Orton.
Well, Orton's a good surprise member. He has been out for so long. He's a huge name. And additionally, I don't think you wanted to go to CM Punk in that. And then, like, the crowd's chanting CM Punk and he's not going to be there. So, it's probably better to squash it and be like, yeah, it's Randy Orton.
I'm a little perplexed here because they didn't bring out Randy Orton. Like, wouldn't you want him to appear like he comes through the crowd or he comes out like something? Wouldn't you want him to be on TV for the go home Raw?
Yeah.
They didn't do it. I mean, there's not going to be another Raw. Maybe he's going to show up at um the Black Friday edition of SmackDown just to get on TV the day
Hmm.
before the pay per view. But as far as reveals go, I don't know. I don't know how they're handling it. I mean, if I were fantasy booking this, since they haven't actually put Randy Orton on TV and told us that he's back and let us see him, I think they should do an angle at Survivor Series where Randy Orton gets jumped backstage and they just have him lying there in his wrestling gear and he can't make it out. And then since they've already done that, the baby faces lost the advantage match, it's going to be the fifth baby face comes out last. And then it's a guy who I don't think has a match on Survivor Series, LA Knight.
Oh,
You
right.
think the place would go nuts if LA Knight's music hit? It's like it was 5-on-4 in the men's war game match, and suddenly LA Knight came out because Randy Orton had been beaten down in the back. And
Yeah,
maybe that's our segue to perhaps what the next item to talk about from this SmackDown is.
that is the lead, folks. So we talked about the main event of SmackDown, and that's our lead. Let's move on here to the follow. Moving on to the follow here, Dom.
Mm-hmm.
Any match that you wanted to talk about in particular?
LA Knight versus Jimmy Uso. This was the last match of the night, the fourth out of four matches. They only give it 9 minutes, which makes it the third longest match of the night. It was only longer than a 2 minute squash that I'm sure we'll spend hopefully less than 2 minutes talking about later. But LA Knight goes over Jimmy Uso. It's a fun one-on-one match really until Solo comes out to distract LA Knight, who gets hit from behind by Jimmy Uso post-match. So they let the regular match go one-on-one. LA Knight winds up hitting the blunt force trauma because Paul and Solo Sikoa were at ringside initially. Then Paul Heyman gets a phone call and they keep teasing, oh, it's Roman Reigns. And so Paul just starts motioning to Solo and they leave ringside. So the idea is that Roman Reigns told him to get out of ringside and let Jimmy do it one-on-one.
Yeah.
And Jimmy loses.
Mm.
In about 9 minutes, LA Knight hits the blunt force trauma. And then at the end, there's a sort of a 2-on-1. Solo hits the Samoan smite on LA Knight on the floor. The beatdown looks like it's going to continue until Cody Rhodes, who's not even supposed to be on SmackDown, runs out for the save. And Cody Rhodes and LA Knight stand tall in the ring. And tell me that this wouldn't be the perfect thing to do Saturday. To have Randy Orton beat down backstage, unable to come out since he may not actually be cleared to wrestle anyway, and he hasn't appeared on TV, and it's LA Knight returning the favor and running out to be the fifth man.
Dom, we're an LA Knight show. Don't worry,
We've become that, haven't we?
We are the top marks for LA Knight here. So I'd be like, yeah, sure. I was like, I hope he wins the title against Roman Reigns in Saudi Arabia. Which would be ridiculous. But I was like, yeah, like push him as much as possible. Anything he does, the crowd goes ballistic. So I think that's perfect. You might as well, while he's hot, right? I mean,
yes.
It sounds like a little bit with Cody. They drug him out while he was hot, and he's cooled off a bit. So
I think Cody's still hot, though. You've mentioned this, that the WWE has a hard time building baby faces. The WWE has a handful of really good baby faces who've been in the spotlight for months and months now, and it's not going away.
Yeah.
Sami Zayn is still hot on Raw. We don't see him that much, but I see clips online. Sami Zayn is still hot on Raw. Jey Uso has gone full-on babyface since he's been on Raw. Like this men's War Games match, these are 4 really hot babies. Seth Rollins is still over as a babyface. Cody Rhodes is still maybe as over as anyone on Raw as a babyface. So these 4 that they've got in there as the babyfaces for War Games, I think they're all hot. Is this unusual for WWE that they have maybe too many babyfaces to decide who's going to actually get that push over the top, over the hill, over the hump to maybe a belt?
Well, I mean, don't call it a spoiler, folks, but there is an opportunity for us to make a video about who should dethrone Roman Reigns. And there's a bunch of guys, totally agreed, where you would say, yeah, that could be the guy. I mean, with Jimmy, LA Knight, Cody, and then Jimmy, Jay, all 3 of them could easily do it. And you'd be like, yeah, this is really cool. And I don't think
you could throw Gunther in there if they get the IC title off of him, or make him like just drop, like just retire the belt. He says, I relinquish the belt. I'm going after Roman. So there's a lot of people who are hot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if Gunther just relinquishes the IC title and goes after, that would be wild.
Yeah.
And he could work as a face. He kind of is a face in a way, Gunther. I mean, he keeps winning, and he doesn't win dirty. He wins like very technically sound. That's all.
Yeah, he's been getting a lot of clean victories. We remember that towards the end of his SmackDown run, is they were trying to get him away from being, the generic heel champion who keeps having his cronies do the work for him, to him becoming like, oh my goodness, this guy's maybe the best in-ring performer they have. He's a tremendous wrestler. Let's let him do it.
Mm-hmm.
Gunther has gotten a lot of the kind of victories that I wish they'd let Roman Reigns get just once in a while.
Yeah, he should win clean.
Like, not have your freaking cronies win the match for you.
As a 1,000-day champ, isn't there somebody he could beat, and like that wouldn't be that big of a deal?
Yeah.
Isn't there some mid-card guy right now that can go out, have a good match with him, and lose, and you'd be like, yeah, okay, he can still wrestle.
Yeah, every single Roman Reigns match ends with Roman Reigns having his shoulders on the mat for like a 5 count, but the ref doesn't see it.
Yeah.
And then Gunther's out there like, letting guys get their offense in and making it be a really good-looking match, but at the end, Gunther just wins.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking too much Raw now. We're talking too much maybe Survivor Series preview here. Anything from the LA Knight Jimmy Uso match that you wanted to talk about spot-wise? I didn't have a lot of notes for this match. I mean, they didn't let them go a lot. I think it was because they wanted to do the women's War Games reveal at the end.
I don't have
But
anything.
I mean, LA Knight looks great. Jimmy Uso's a good foil for him.
Yeah.
Anything you wanted to mention?
I don't think nothing specifically with the spots, but I do have to say, this is like booking 101, right? Where LA Knight loses the big match. You have him come out, you have him win a match just to rebound him right away. Be like, he's not getting buried or been put away. He's still around. Um, so yeah, so that's LA Knight versus Jimmy Uso. Moving on here, I think the next match I'll go ahead and say one that actually has implications, which is great, is the three-way tag team match. You have the
Tag
Street
team triple
Profits,
threat.
the Street Profits, the Brawling Brutes, and Pretty Deadly in a triple threat tag team match. Street Profits go over, and they're going to get a shot at the tag titles at the pay-per-view. Dom, what did you think of this match?
For a triple threat tag team match, I started wondering, oh my goodness, this is going to be too crazy.
Mhm.
And it was not. I thought it was a well put together match by all six of these competitors. Ridge Holland, unfortunately, is falling into that role where he's kind of the fall guy for the Brutes, and um, they're leaning into that, especially at the end of this match. This match ends with Butch accidentally brogue kicking Ridge, so he gets a good foot to the chin there from his partner, and that sets up the Street Profits to hit the Revelation double team move. And Angelo Dawkins winds up picking up the pinfall. This match goes 11 minutes. It's the longest match of the night.
Mhm.
Pretty Deadly looked good. The Brawling Brutes look good. The Street Profits. This is on one hand, this is a really good call because they're getting pushed, and I think it's a good storyline with Bobby Lashley trying to elevate these guys and bring these guys along to the next step of being really elite performers. They're bringing in BFAB for this. Like she's going to have something to do with it with Bobby Lashley as well. But they're heels, and Judgment Day are heels. So this is going to be heel versus heel now for this tag team title match when it goes down here. What did you think of these guys, and were you surprised to see the Street Profits win?
No, they've been building them for a while, so they're probably the right team, and they've kind of reorganized them. So, like in a way that kind of rebuilding their gimmick from the frat boys to the no BS heel, well dressed men.
Yep.
And Bobby Lashley is a great manager. I think already. I really like him a lot in this role. Um, but I thought it's the one thing I noticed about the triple threat match, and I can't say this, I don't say this too often, but I like all the teams that were involved here. So
Okay.
I like the Brawling Brutes. I think, as always, Butch makes the most of his minutes that he's out on TV because he doesn't get a lot of time, but when he is, you're like, this guy's pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Brawling Brutes, I'm a big fan of. Street Profits, I like the new gimmick, and I really like Montez Ford. Angelo Dawkins, he's going to be okay with him and the tag team, but Montez Ford really sticks out to me. And then Pretty Deadly. What on paper I should hate their gimmick, but I actually really like it. Like if you explain to me what Pretty Deadly's gimmick is, it's like, yeah, they're like fancy boys from Australia or New Zealand or something like that. I'd be like, no, that's not really the kind of gimmick I like, but they really pull it off. So
Yeah,
Pretty
they're the European metrosexuals.
right, but
Like
they're
this would not work if they tried to bill them as like somewhere from the American South.
no,
But
they cannot
European
be rednecks.
metrosexuals, it could work.
Mm-hmm. No, so
Yep. Yes, boy, Elton Strong.
it's weird because it's like reminiscent of the old Vince days of a comedy gimmick, and most of that's usually bad. But again, it's good. I can't even hate on it. So,
No, right.
I think they got through. And I think this at least gives us a match to watch, and there's a reason to watch. Okay, the winner gets a shot at the title, which is always a big deal.
Have Pretty Deadly been the most impressive call-ups from NXT to you that we
Oh,
saw from this past April's draft?
oh, for sure. Because the other two people that we've seen from the NXT draft, which we'll talk about in a minute, have not been impressive to me. But so they for sure have, I think, been the best, especially in a division that probably needs a little bit of help with the tag team division.
Yeah.
So I think they've elevated that division. Maybe this brings us into the next match here. We have Cameron Grimes versus Grayson Waller in a match that goes 2.5 minutes.
If that, yeah, right?
Grayson Waller kind of squashes Cameron Grimes. Grimes has been a pretty good worker, I think, but he hasn't got a lot of TV time. I don't know what his deal is, so he just gets squashed by Grayson Waller, who, quite frankly, has had too much time on TV. What did you think of this match, Dom?
My note here was that Grimes is energetic and moves well, but he's a jobber for now. So if he can withstand this, I think he's got a good future. He when he's out there, you talked about when Butch is on TV, he gives a good showing. I think when Cameron Grimes is on TV, he gives a good showing for himself.
For sure.
But he's just not winning. He's just not in that position yet on the card. That's all I'm going to say. The match went 2 minutes. We shouldn't be talking about it for longer than the match went.
True. All right. So we'll move on to the next match.
One more match.
We have Dragon Lee versus, and I wrote NXT guy, but I don't. Who was it?
Axiom.
Yeah. So a premiere of a new NXT guy, and then Dragon Lee, who's gotten a lot of. I would say he's had a lot of time on SmackDown.
Yes.
Wrestling pretty good, like 9-10 minute matches here. I thought this was a pretty good match. What did you think of this?
Not a bad match, about 10 minutes, like you're saying, which for the kind of match that Dragon Lee puts on, there's a lot going on in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So this is like a 20-minute Roman Reigns pay-per-view. Because there's no posing, there's not a lot of posturing. The athleticism is there. It's a great luchador / Japanese style match. Axiom at one point hits a Spanish fly off the top turnbuckle, and it's a really good Spanish fly by both men. He got a 2 count out of it. Like, that was fantastic. Dragon Lee hits a sit-out powerbomb for a 2 count. Eventually gets the pinfall. Guys are both good workers. I noticed the same thing you did, that they seem to be pushing Dragon Lee.
Yeah.
There's no cruiserweight belt. I don't know what the next step is for him, other than, he's the guy in the middle of the show that they let go out there for 10 minutes and he's really athletic. So I don't know if there's a character development or a real competition, rivalry, belt-based something or other for him to do. But for his time on TV, these are almost like the old luchador matches in WCW on the Nitro days, where it really wasn't going anywhere long-term storyline wise, but it was just fun to watch Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit and Rey Mysterio in those early days just have a 10 to 15 minute match that was awesome.
And Chris Jericho.
Yeah. I mean, those were the guys.
You just named 5 guys. It wouldn't be too bad to be like, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not one of the guys, but
I mean,
4 of the guys.
From a wrestling standpoint, like that's high praise. I mean, I'm not saying that Dragon Lee's there yet, or that he's going to be there, but he's in that role where, it's just his job to go out there and you don't have to know anything about him or his opponent. There's no long-term storyline. They didn't get into this Twitter feud or some backstage thing or, one guy jumped on another guy or whatever. They just 2 guys sent out there. They have a match.
Yeah.
Any spots from this match that you enjoyed or any developments from it that you thought were noteworthy?
I think we'll keep the ball rolling here because we're a little late on this SmackDown. So I'll hold off and just say I'm liking the direction that they're headed with Dragon Lee, and like just putting a guy up that's a little unique that you don't really know who he is, giving him some wins, and he doesn't have much of personality. You're like, just go out, do some high flying fast stuff, and we'll see where it goes. So Good for Dragon Lee,
Yep.
good position to be in. That's all the matches. Anything else you want to talk about with SmackDown before we jump
Are we seeing the return of Legado del Fantasma, or at least that character for Santos Escobar? He's got the middle of the show right at the 9 o'clock hour. He comes out just before 9 p.m. on the East Coast here. SmackDown for us is 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Just before 9 o'clock, Santos Escobar walks out to the ring dressed like he's going back into Legado del Fantasma mode, which is how they debuted him about a year ago, along with Cruz and Joaquin and Zelina Vega. They were Legado del Fantasma. They were kind of the Mexican aristocracy. He comes out, cuts the big promo, "Don't meet your heroes," talking about Rey Mysterio. Dominic Mysterio was right. And then saying of Rey, "I hope you never come back."
Oh, God. I'll tell you what.
So they're really running down Rey, and they're this is a clear, it looks like, heel turn for Santos Escobar. Did you see any of this, and were you interested in where they were taking this and in what they're trying to do with Santos Escobar at this point?
Yeah, I think because let's let it play out, right? But I think that actually having a storyline with that group now will be interesting. And it'll be interesting to see where he's positioned as a heel, if he's a little bit better there. I think he's always been a good worker, but really one of the better workers on SmackDown. So maybe this just addition of him just becoming kind of a heel, turning on Rey. And talk about cheap heat, just bring up Dom, Dominic Mysterio. If anyone says anything about Dominic Mysterio, man, do the boos come in. So.
Yep. And Santos Escobar is apparently turning on everybody. Zelina Vega comes out to confront him and saying, like, "Why are you saying this about Rey?" And eventually Zelina slaps him and walks out of the ring crying. And then Cruz and Joaquin come out to console Zelina, and then they get into the ring. And then, Santos Escobar is trying to get them back together as a trio, and they're not having it. And they of course, do the dumb baby face thing. They turn their backs as they're leaving the ring, and Santos Escobar attacks them both. At that point, Carlito runs out for the save, and Santos Escobar bails. So they're setting up Santos Escobar versus Carlito. I guess Carlito's in the LWO now.
Yeah.
Like, as a full member. Like, he's there, and he may be the new leader since Rey's out for a while, storyline-wise and real-wise, as we'll get to in a little bit. So big changes for LWO. What are you most interested in with them doing this with the LWO? Because they think it's a big deal. They gave them the 9 o'clock change over the hour there. Is it the biggest deal, the ascension of Carlito? Is it Santos Escobar maybe having a good heel run as a singles? Is it maybe the breakup of the LWO? Maybe they thought that didn't work well enough?
I think the biggest thing is Santos Escobar getting the push, kind of the escalated to an actual story, because he has just been the other. He's just been the other guy the whole time in that group, right?
Yep.
So pulling the trigger, having him be, because it's been like Rey Mysterio's buddy. So now he can be kind of take on some of the stuff that Dom was doing before. Rey is awesome at being the baby face, but I told you, Mr. Oak, really getting not manipulated, but just trashed by people, right? That are close to him. He's good at that. We saw that with Dom.
Yep.
And I think this could lead. I should say this. Putting him in this position gives a little bit more intrigue to his character, whereas before he's just like Rey Mysterio's friend. It's a little stale, a little boring. So we'll see if he runs with it. The ball's in his court now, right? Because if you get this opportunity, it's really on him to kind of deliver here.
It has to be, and he hasn't had a singles run. Mm-hmm. He's been a faction guy since they've brought him up to the main roster and tried to push him. And they tried to tweak that faction as they went. And maybe it's just time to ditch the faction with this guy if he's got that kind of talent.
Right. All right, Dom, anything else from SmackDown that you would want to talk about?
They were playing up that the Damage Control was beating up anybody who looked like they were talking to Bianca Belair or Charlotte Flair backstage. They did it to Mishin early. They wind up doing it to Zelina Vega right after, a little bit after this segment here, because Bianca's seen consoling Zelina Vega backstage. And they come back from commercial, and Damage Control is just pummeled Zelina Vega.
Mm.
So they're doing this thing where Damage Control is just pummeling everybody who, because they don't want there to be this fourth person for Bianca's team at War Games. That's kind of a wrinkle we've seen that overdone. I mean, we just saw that with the John Cena thing in the Bloodline,
Right.
where Solo and Jimmy went backstage beating up everybody who might team with John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's getting a little overdone.
We've been down that road. Speaking of
recently,
yeah, we've been down this road before. And speaking of road, you drive down a road, Dom.
You do.
You think it's time?
Do you drive with your thumbs, John?
They're a part of the.
Do we drive with our thumbs?
They're a part of the process.
They're part of the process. 10 and 2. 10 and 2. 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. We drive with our thumbs.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is drive time. This is Thumb Drive, the segment where we talk about if we give WWE SmackDown a thumbs up or a thumbs down. All right, Dom, so I'm going to put out my thumb.
All right, I'm going to try to get to the middle of the screen here if I can.
All right, ready? 3,
Yep.
2, 1. Oh! Differing opinions. Dom,
differing opinions.
You go thumbs down. I was very, very, very close to joining you. And
okay. What made you not join me?
I'm going to be honest with you. I was going to jump on the thumbs down, and I was just thinking about it. And I was thinking about it. I was like, this is the go home show. They're really rushed because they only have a couple weeks to throw everything together. So they're kind of forced to do all this storyline stuff in fast forward. So I think it's more the positioning of the pay-per-view being 3 weeks out right away. So I showed a little sympathy, and I was like, well, at least we got the Street Profits, Brawling Brutes, Pretty Deadly, and then that match specifically. So, but I'm at like 5.1 out of a scale of 10. Like it was
okay.
It was like little thumb, like barely up. I really wanted to give it a thumbs down, but how about you? Why did you give it a thumbs down?
I just didn't think there was a really good apex to this show where I went, yeah, that was it. I mean, the women's War Game reveal was anticlimactic to me. I don't think it was well done. I think they almost teased something that would have been pretty cool. And it's unfortunate because no knock to Becky Lynch. She's a great performer. I like watching her wrestle, but they did this last year. It was our first pay-per-view that we watched as Don't Bury the Lead and recapped. I'm and if it wound up cutting some of the matches, like LA Knight, Jimmy Uso, we only got 9 minutes out of it.
That's a good point too, because if you think about last week, I think last week was on par of this show. But last week, the Asuka switching to Damage Control was legit surprising, and was actually like a really cool storyline thing where you're like, oh wow, I didn't see that coming, and you're like, oh, this actually makes a lot of sense, and it looked cool. But now with Becky Lynch joining, it's like they already did this last year. It's not a surprise, and then she's joining. So I totally see where you're coming from. But so we're split here on Thumb Drive. And
not a terrible show, but there was just nothing that stood out to me as, oh yeah, that really worked.
Right. Well, Dom, that is SmackDown in the books. We're going to be here Saturday night to watch and review and recap Survivor Series. So looking forward to that. quick turnaround for us because tonight's Wednesday, so we'll be here Saturday. And you know, time to get a little cheap here, Dom.
Now we're gonna get cheap. Oh, finally.
Finally, it's time for cheap heat.
Finally, I can take off my human skin and let my cheap lizard form just reveal itself.
Yes. Cheap Heat is a segment where we talk about trending topics and things that get clicks and views on YouTube. So we'll talk about things that are trending in the pro wrestling world. We talk about WWE. We'll talk about AEW, NWA. But we'll usually take this segment, package it down into some smaller videos. So it's basically just for clicks, but it's our Cheap Heat. And we're going to kick it to Dom first here. And
Well, it's for fun too. I mean, you and I watch SmackDown and we enjoy it, but the wrestling world is bigger than that, right?
oh, for sure. It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, we have fun recapping SmackDown, but I mean, we follow other things that happen just as wrestling fans, and why not squeeze a little of that into our show here? And I think, like you're saying, I think the fans have enjoyed it.
Yeah.
If you're watching us now, leave us a comment, leave us something in the chat. If you have something for Cheap Heat that you want us to talk about, we've got a few things on a rundown here. John and I, we each have something that we put together that just stood out to us this past week and a half here. Logan Paul, talking about guys who are able to cross into mainstream pop culture. Logan Paul, he's almost the reverse of that. He's mainstream pop culture who crossed into the WWE. He's on Fox Business with the belt.
Right.
How many pro wrestlers get called onto a business show? Because this guy is a big deal in business. He's sitting there on Varney and Company on Fox Business. A little bit later, he's on his own Twitter account here. He's in a pawn shop trying to pawn the U.S. title belt in kind of a funny little segment here. But Logan Paul is doing all the things that we thought Logan Paul could do, that he could bring to the table, that he's got a huge pop culture following already. He's got a huge business acumen to him already that people know about. He's showing up on business shows. He's showing up, just on social media with the belt, doing all sorts of wacky things with it. And if you're wondering, was it really time for Logan Paul to have the belt? Well, maybe it was a little bit of bad luck that turned into good luck, because it turns out that Rey Mysterio was legitimately hurt.
Mhm.
He had been battling a knee injury for a few months. And so he agreed to drop the belt to Logan Paul. This was the best thing for everybody, because Rey needed to have surgery. And it was time, if they wanted Logan Paul to be on the roster full time, it was time to give him a belt, have him run with it, and see if the Logan Paul effect was worth it.
Yeah, I think
so. We wish Rey Mysterio the best in his recovery. The WWE's done a good job of playing at least two storylines off of this. Real life happens. What can you adjust? Can you adapt? WWE seems to be doing it. Rey, all the best to you. Hardest working retired man in wrestling. He's now the hardest recuperating retired man in wrestling. And we hope it goes well. Speaking of people recuperating, John Cena undergoes successful surgery on both arms. This comes to us from WrestleZone. The last one was from Bleacher Report. John Cena, he went through this whole run here with apparently some serious injuries that he needed to get taken care of. There's not a lot of details in here on what it is. 2 successful surgeries. He went into Crown Jewel wrestling Solo Sikoa, put on what we thought was a pretty good match. I mean, Cena looked like the old Cena. He put over Solo Sikoa clean. It made Solo Sikoa look like a great up-and-coming wrestler, like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Cena was doing this hurt. So not only did he not have to come back because he's a big movie star and he doesn't need the money, but he came back when he was physically not at his best. I appreciate John Cena for what he did.
Yeah,
here.
that's crazy, because that was a great match too. So
yep.
And
you thought it was the match of the night,
yeah.
right? Crown Jewel
Yeah,
pay-per-view?
and he was getting squashed. I mean, like he was
Yes.
taking some bumps throughout the whole course of it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not much of a surprise because if he's wrestled for as long as he has at this age, he probably knows just how to gut it out and just take the bumps. So I would say not really.
Yeah.
It is impressive and something I don't think I wanted to, but he probably has just learned throughout his life how to gut it out. What you know. So
Yep.
tough to see him kind of go under surgery here. And hopefully he's back because there still seems to be that chapter he has to close, which they've alluded to.
Okay, that's an interesting place to take it. Do you want to see one more Cena run when he's healthy? Do you think he has another run in him? Were you impressed enough with this run that you want to see another one, or you think this should just be it?
It would be wild that if he retired at the Saudi show. Yeah,
Right?
maybe it's probably good for him to go away for a while and then come back on occasion, Royal Rumble, something goofy like that. But maybe stop with and maybe it's good timing too because he's pretty much already retired, but then came back because of the writer's strike. But now he can go back to acting, so maybe he can throw himself back into acting. But I thought it was a pretty good run, and he wasn't getting a lot of the Cena sucks. He was getting all "Let's go Cena," so crowd was appreciative of him as well.
And maybe this ends before the crowd starts turning on him. Like they got out of town. The Jerry Seinfeld thing, leave him wanting more.
Yes. No.
So if they've successfully ended this John Cena brief comeback with people wanting more, I think that's good news for everybody, even if he doesn't have another run. The fact that they put a bow on this one, this was well done, I think, and all best to John Cena also recuperating. Very good. Speaking of recuperating, the NWA may need to have to recuperate its image. There were rumors that they were getting shows on the CW network. I don't know how true those rumors were, but it turns out Power is going to only the CW app, not being broadcast on the CW, and especially with NXT going to CW, the NWA looks like it just kind of got muscled out of what was supposed to be its own big story. Now we hear this comes to us from houseofwrestling.com. The NWA is expected to make roster and production cuts. Billy Corgan is apparently been investing a lot of his own money into this, which, good for him. He's a wrestling fan. The same thing's happening in AEW with the cons. But Billy Corgan wants to see a better return on what's going on, and maybe they're trying to get leaner. I've heard that the CW has put NWA Power onto the app, but this was not where they were hyped to be, right?
Oh my God. Why would they do this segment? It just feels like, you're right there, you're knocking on the door, and then they're like, oh, wait, you guys are doing what? Because you think about the NWA, and they don't really do this sort of silliness, right? So they're kind of old school, if you will. They wouldn't have such stuff on their product, so.
Yeah, cocaine is old school, but not making it an on-screen angle.
No, it was more hush-hush then, People were doing it, but you didn't talk about it. You don't talk about it.
And you didn't show it to people. You didn't write it into the program.
Right. Yes. We all remember the Flair promos. It was involved, right? So, but, it was a little tongue-in-cheek, or at least hidden away. But yeah.
Yeah, this here they're talking about it here. So apparently they're going with the rumors as if they had been true that NWO is supposed to get a program on the network. The backlash to the segment on social media caused the CW to reconsider airing NWA on its actual television airwaves. It will now likely make the content available on its app. I have seen some other images and stories that I don't have the CW app. I'm not a CW app guy. I'm not an any app guy, really, for these things. I use very few of them. But I have heard that Power is on the app. but that's maybe the hype machine just got a little too ahead of him. Maybe the hype machine got a little coked up.
Right? I'll tell you what.
Maybe that's the best way to put it here. Wishing all the best to Billy Corgan, he's a wrestling fan, and if we're appreciative of what Tony Khan is doing with AEW, being a guy who he's a fan, he's got deep pockets, he wants to give this a try as a long-term project. Billy Corgan's doing the same thing, and I don't think you can crap on one for being a guy with plenty of money who wants to put it into pro wrestling and kind of live his own dream in a sense as a wrestling fan, and not crap on the other. And I'm, for the most part, going to choose not to crap on either one.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm the biggest fan of their promotions, but I have nothing against Tony Khan using his money to give it a run with AEW. I have nothing against Billy Corgan using his money to give it a run with the NWA.
No, and we want to.
If there is enough wrestling fandom out there for all of these promotions, great. If not, that's competition.
Yeah.
Well, what say you, my friend?
Yeah, no, I agree with that assessment. I think it's gotten a lot better because there are legitimate contenders, and it would be cool to have a legit number 3 in NWA. Maybe they were kind of bidding with NXT or up against NXT, and NXT just sort of won out, which makes a little bit more sense to why they were sending main people from the main roster to NXT, because they were trying to get a deal with CW. Like, now that I'm thinking about it, it kind of adds up, right? And this is just speculation. So I'm just a guy, on YouTube. So I don't really know this, but it would make sense that they were actually up to bid, and they include NWA because it's a bid, right? It's an RFQ probably, where they're like, yeah, we need we want pro wrestling on. Maybe they talk to Ring of Honor, perhaps with AEW. Maybe they talk to NXT, and then they throw NWA in, and they see who's got the best product, who's the cheapest, et cetera, et cetera. And it looks like at least NWA got a piece of the pie because they're on the app, so it's something, right?
They got a little something. I don't know how being on the CW app compares to being just really promoting all their own stuff on their own video streaming platforms, their YouTube channel, maybe their NWA their own website, or other video hosting platforms that they have a real presence on, Twitter, whatever. I don't know. I am also just a guy on YouTube.
Right.
And wherever else you're watching us, Twitch, Facebook, if there are clips floating around on other things, we're just guys on your computers, your laptops, your mobile devices, your tablets. Just wrestling fans having a go at it. I'm a fan of the NWA. I'm a fan of Billy Corgan. Let's hope he's making good business decisions here with these cuts. And you mentioned ROH. Ronda Rousey gave the WWE a hard out several months ago. Look who showed up at a Ring of Honor show. It's Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
We'll take this back to the beginning. She apparently got a really good reception from the crowd here. And it was a pretty good surprise when Ronda Rousey's name shows up on the big board and the music, and she gets announced. And the crowd here seems excited. A lot of camera phones go up. People pointing towards the entrance there, wanting to see her. She struts down full of confidence, seems to get a good ovation here. How much of ROH do you see as an AEW fan? Because they do bring those two promotions together a lot. How much ROH do you see as an AEW fan?
None. I don't understand what it is. Like, I don't understand where they're running the shows, how to watch it, anything like that. So it's something that's been kind of a flop for AEW, or at least seems to be, because I don't think a lot of people are going to these shows, and I don't really know what purpose it serves. I think it might just be like a developmental thing. But it looks like they travel with them. So I'd have to say this. I don't know enough about Ring of Honor, and, I'm an AEW fan, so I hope it does well, but I haven't really seen too much of it. They just certainly they'll have people come up from Ring of Honor, and they bring their belts. So it kind of like just has way too many belts to AEW now because just everybody has a belt that comes up. Or like,
well, Samoa Joe was a Ring of Honor champion for a while. He had the belt there. Weren't the Briscoes having something about the Briscoes coming over from Ring of Honor as well? So there's some sort of, and I don't know if there's a hard separation between Ring of Honor roster and AEW roster, since Tony Khan owns both and he's willing to promote each one on the other's programs. But would you want, if Ronda Rousey's going to stick with ROH for a few months, would you look forward to her maybe being on an AEW program sometime?
It's interesting, right? Because I don't know if she was kind of mailing it in with WWE or if she just wasn't really good. Right?
Yeah.
Because we had
questions. We have questions.
We have questions because on SmackDown she was not she wasn't so hot, right? When she was on SmackDown. And
no,
I'd seen her
unless she wrestled Raquel Rodriguez.
Except for Raquel Rodriguez. If AEW signed,
then it was like, where has this Ronda Rousey been? My goodness.
If AEW signs Raquel Rodriguez, you can just match those two up and they'll tear it up.
There you go, right?
But no, I know she's rough. She's a rough worker. So I think you use her as she is, which is a big star in general, a household name, if you will. And you just, maybe she comes out and does a little bit of waving the crowd and then keep her out of the ring. Don't let her in the ring.
That's all I got from you. You have some intriguing cheap heat, don't you?
You know, Dom, I do have some cheap heat. So if you will, bear with me as I fumble through.
Okay, and some of it may be of the AEW flavor.
That's right. So MJF was interviewed by Dr. Bo Hightower. And what this guy, his gimmick really is, he bends and breaks everyone's body and interviews them while it's happening. So I think they're a little bit more vulnerable and they're more willing to say some stuff as he's like doing all kinds of stretches to their shoulder and like their neck and cracking their neck and all this chiropractic stuff.
Seems to be an actual chiropractor. Like he's helping them. This is top-notch medical care here. And they're just like shooting the breeze while they do it.
Yeah. So during this interview, MJF shoots on Hulk Hogan. So I'm just going to hit play and let him take over here.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So why do you think that Hogan's so much heat in the wrestling community?
Because he's a liar and a racist.
Mm.
You know, it doesn't change the fact that he was a massive draw and the professional wrestling business will never be the same because of him, for the better. But there are plenty of professional wrestlers that did great business. It doesn't mean that they're great people. Chris Benoit, a professional wrestler, doesn't mean he was a good person. And I think for some reason, wrestling fans kind of struggle with that.
They can't separate
the two, which is why I think people love me, because I'm out and out a horrible person, and I'm honest about it.
There you go.
So it's like, at least I'm honest about it.
Yeah. I'll just let you know up front.
Oh. All right. That is the extent.
Bite down
of the video, and yeah, so we have MJF shooting on Hulk Hogan, which is ridiculous because usually, you know, you kind of don't want to really trash anybody in the industry. And Hulk Hogan, probably the greatest pro wrestler of all time, he shoots on him, calls him a liar and a racist, which are really both horrible insults. I think with MJF's character and the character that he portrays, he has a lot of leeway to kind of say whatever and do whatever he wants, because it's tough to tell when it's MJF talking or when it's the actual man, you know, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Is he in character and calling Hogan a liar and a racist, which is great heel stuff? Yeah. Or is he in real life saying it as himself? So I think when he has these interviews, he's probably the best interview in the business for sure, because he blurs that line between like he's kind of being himself, but he's also in character. So it's really tough to tell what he actually means. What you think of this, Dom?
It's like Vince McMahon. It's a shoot and a work at the same time. Like that's what his life has become at such a young age of 20 something. It's already a shoot and a work. I thought it was kind of a leading question. Does Hulk Hogan, like we're just assuming that Hulk Hogan has heat with lots of wrestling fans? I mean, he's an older guy. He's doing other things now. He's clearly retired. He's in the news because he's a celebrity now, not because he's still wrestling. He's not trying to get back in the ring, as far as I can tell. Does Hulk Hogan really have heat with wrestling fans? I mean, like Hogan doesn't have any, I don't have any bad things to say about Hogan. He's living his life. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I do think he's a liar, but he is a pro wrestler. So they are professionally lying to you constantly.
Yes.
So MJF, who's living a lie in character, is saying that he's a liar. So who knows, right?
Hogan's a worker.
Right?
He's a worker. He's not a liar. He's a worker.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, Hogan's told some famous lies over the years, though.
Works. He's working.
When he was just on a podcast and talked about how he was at Wembley Stadium and a dying kid's last wish was to see him. And then like he saw him and then he died. And then like he saw the parents after the match. But it's like, you were never at Wembley Stadium. And that doesn't sound like something that would happen where the parents would hang out with you after the kid died. Like that just doesn't sound like that would be something that happened. And then, the parents were saying how great it was. So Hulk Hogan, definitely a liar. He's not lying about, or I should say this, he's not BSing Hulk Hogan being a liar, but it is great to just hear MJF just do his thing. And then one more thing, and because this is pretty trending, we have, and let me just pull up the video.
Tell us in the comments, tell us in the chat, do you have heat with Hulk Hogan?
Yes.
How seriously do you take it? Are you like passionately mad at Hulk Hogan, disappointed in Hulk Hogan, or are you just like, yeah, he's retired, he's just living his life?
Priceline deals? Where are we going?
We got here Liv Morgan, a little story about her I am reading on your screen here.
Might surprise you about.
This is the wrong screen. Oh no. Give me a sec.
Okay.
Give me 2
So
seconds.
we did not have Liv Morgan news. I was like, wow, I haven't seen her on WWE TV in a while. I thought this was going to be a huge scoop.
Let's go ahead and share my screen. All right.
Okay.
So Becky Lynch was on Jeopardy, and we have some highlights of her on Jeopardy.
Degrees of actual bacon.
Can I have 6 degrees? Thank you. Going to 6 degrees of actual bacon for 200, please.
See what's going on here.
Yeah, me too.
Mozzarella is in caprese salad with tomato, and tomato is with bacon in this 3 initial sandwich. Rachel.
What is a BLT?
That's the sandwich.
Let's go back to bacon for fun.
My goodness.
Mayo is in egg salad with hard-boiled eggs, which are with bacon atop this salad, first served at LA's Brown Derby. The Brown Derby served the first Cobb salad. I think Mac got it. Back to you.
Let's stick with the bacon.
More bacon for how much?
600, please.
I'm enjoying the bacon
Milk
here.
is in custard with eggs, and eggs are with bacon in this quiche, named for a region of France.
What is
Rachel.
what is Lorraine?
Quiche Lorraine is right.
Okay. Bacon for 800.
Tomato sauce is in sloppy joes with beef, and beef is with bacon in this beloved Wendy's burger, introduced in 2007. It's not your Wendy's order, I guess. Becky, you have a guess?
What is the Baconator?
That is correct. It is the Baconator. Yes.
Baconator.
You didn't have the courage of your fast food convictions.
No, it didn't.
Well, let's go bacon.
She knew
for
the
1,000.
Baconator.
Finish it off. Sugar is in jam with fruit, and fruit is with pancakes and bacon in this classic IHOP dish with a kooky name. Rachel.
What is Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruity?
That's the kooky name, yes. We know the celebrity final.
All right. So Becky Lynch, long story short, Becky Lynch is on Jeopardy, and she didn't get a single answer correct. She went 0 for 60.
Officially. Yeah.
Officially. She got nothing right. And yeah. So Jeopardy, somebody tweeted about, hey, is this the worst that anybody's ever done in Jeopardy? And somebody said, yeah, like they don't have any record of someone not getting any of the answers right. So I do have to say that Jeopardy is pretty tough. And I'm pretty lousy at trivia. If I do Quizzo, I usually am pretty good at, going there, meeting up with the people, drinking beer, eating the food, but I'm pretty lousy at trivia. Those questions, though, weren't so challenging. It's Celebrity Jeopardy. So they really kind of hold off there. You could see that some of the questions the answers were Cobb salad and Baconator. Cobb salad is pretty common of a salad. Like, it's not like if they were talking about Greek mythology,
Yeah.
Modern European history, something like that, where you may have some people not know the answers. So, so Jeopardy, or I should say Becky Lynch, got no answers correct in Jeopardy.
You can see why the Saturday Night Live series of sketches worked so well. Celebrity Jeopardy, with, celebrities just not being able to get even the simplest answers correct. Becky Lynch here, perhaps playing the part of Sean Connery in those old SNL sketches. She's got sort of the European accent for it, so maybe it's a work.
Maybe it is a work. I did see some theories that it was a work. I'm like, why would you work being horrible at a trivia show?
She's putting over the other contestants.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Is Jeopardy fake now too?
I know. Is this? Yes, I did hear it was staged, but I was like, what's to be gained from her getting nothing? She was a good sport about it. She had posted like, I'm always breaking records. So she's a good sport about getting all the answers wrong. So big ups to her for being a good sport. And we're just chatting about Cheap Heat here. Anything else from you, Dom, from a Cheap Heat side?
Nothing from a Cheap Heat side. Hey, in the comments, tell us, were you getting any of those bacon answers correct in that Jeopardy clip there that we showed? Becky Lynch, great wrestler, probably had some fun on Jeopardy there. Did I read that she actually got the final Jeopardy correct, but it's just that she answered no questions correct during the rounds?
Exactly. During regular play, she got none of the answers. But
okay,
she did get the Jeopardy,
final Jeopardy.
Final Jeopardy, yeah. So she was able to get Final Jeopardy.
She was there when it counted.
Right. It could have been that she didn't really know the rules and wasn't really prepped. But I think as you see her kind of get worse and worse throughout the course of the show, she starts to sort of slump a little bit behind the podium because she's just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm a little lost here. Like,
and she knew the Baconator. She just didn't have the guts to chime in. And she's always so confident in a wrestling ring.
That's where I was like, why is she clamming up now? Because she's pretty good on the mic. She's like a very, very outgoing, boisterous person, seemingly always in the promos, and even her gimmick is almost that she's like way over the top and crazy. So why is she not out there like, why is she being so bashful suddenly when they're asking her about the Baconator?
And once you know you're like clearly not in first place, you've got negative dollar amounts and the other ones are up above $5,000. Why aren't you just chiming in every freaking time and going for it?
Yeah. You got
Like, what have I got
nothing.
to lose? I'm already negative. They're already going to have to spot me something for Final Jeopardy.
Mhm.
Why am I not just jumping in every freaking answer and, going like, throwing out what my best guess is?
Right. Well, Dom, I can kick it to you for the line about cheap heat.
It's cheap. It's heat. It's cheap heat.
That's cheap heat, folks. Thanks so much here for joining. We're going to kind of mosey on down to our final segment, the Italian goodbye. Italian goodbye is where we start to say goodbye, and then we just keep going and going and going and going here.
Do we have any previews for Survivor Series? Anything you're really looking forward to? It's a few days away. Thanksgiving weekend, Saturday of the big 4-day weekend here.
Yeah. So they've got a lot to live up to because I believe last year was the Bloodline, if I'm correct here. And the Bloodline story was just boiling hot, and it was a fantastic match.
Yes.
Are they going to be doing it in the War Game style like they did last year?
I think so. It's War Games.
Okay.
For both, there's a men's and women's War Games match. I think, the double ring and the cage lowers, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'll tell you what, that should be that's going to be tough to follow from last year, but I think we're going to have a good show. It's been set up, and I kind of mentioned this during SmackDown, like the thumb drive. They're doing stuff. They're press fast forward. They got to where they need to be. They kind of sacrificed SmackDown and Raw as a result, but we at least have some matches that kind of make sense. Looking forward to the men's, or I should say, the women's looks pretty good. Not necessarily for the face team, but the heel team, Damage Control. They're pretty hot right now, So
they are. Yes, with some new wrestlers coming in, Kairi Sane, and with Asuka switching to a pro Damage Control position there, and then there's that tension with Bailey. There's a lot going on in that storyline. They apparently are all great workers. That'll be fun to see.
Yeah,
but sure. I'm with you. I don't think either War Games match looks on paper that it's going to be as impactful as either of last year's War Games matches were. Which one, men's or women's, do you think has a better chance of eclipsing last year's as far as impact and maybe action in the ring?
Definitely the women's, because to be honest with you, I didn't even remember anything about it. So, because you said, "Oh, Becky Lynch was in it last year," and I was like, I don't remember anything about it from last year. So they don't have much to live up to because I don't remember it. But yeah, definitely the men's have their hands full there. I mean, outside of Randy Orton coming back, I don't know anything specifically there. Although is it the Judgment Day? Is the other team?
Judgment Day with JD McDonough now added as a full member of the Judgment Day, and then Drew McIntyre was added to it as a fifth member, and it's Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, Seth Rollins, and supposedly Randy Orton, but we haven't seen him on any WWE programming yet. They just threw his name out there.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be as star-studded a team as WWE has put together in a long time, especially as a babyface faction.
For sure. I think, the babyface, you're right. The babyface faction is really good. But yeah, so we'll have to see. We have War Games. That should be a lot of fun. Stuff about the channel. So we released a couple videos here. I have the AEW vlog. If you guys want to go check that out. Made some shorts, which I've been doing really good recently. Helps us get some subscribers. So
people like the shorter form stuff. We try to have a little something for everybody on the channel, right?
Yeah, for sure. Talking mostly WWE SmackDown. but we'll lead a little bit into some of the cheap heat stuff, some stuff from AEW. And this has been fun, and we continue to grow here, just a couple subscribers at a time. So I posted a short, and it said we had 300 subscribers, but it was really now at like 319. So
yeah, 319. Thank you, everyone who's subscribed and who's checking out our content. Almost 150,000 total views on the channel.
Yes. And our next mark, I don't know when it's going to be. When? Maybe 400? Are we partying at 400? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But, thanks, everyone. We appreciate it. And Dom, anything else you want to talk about before we hop off here?
Happy Thanksgiving tomorrow for those of you who are watching this either live or a little later on this Wednesday evening. It took us a while to get to the Friday SmackDown, but hey, we got there.
Yes.
Better late than never. It was a show that had enough important stuff that we should have talked about it. Fun to do as always, and I hope everybody watching, listening, whether you're watching the full live stream or you've got a clip on or you've got a short that you're watching. I hope there was something in there that you found valuable too.
Yes, and Dom, you could tell people to subscribe too.
Subscribe to our channel. Don't bury the lead, a wrestling channel. Find us on YouTube. That's where all the best stuff is. It's our not only our live streams, but our archive of edited clips, the shorts that we do. If you're watching us live on Twitch or on Facebook, thank you very much for finding us on those platforms as well. Come on over for the mother load of content on YouTube. Don't bury the lead.
Perfect. And that will be parts of several videos going forward. Awesome. Dom, thanks so much for joining as always. Thanks for those who stuck on there. It looks like we had some people on Twitch kind of popping in and out.
Very good.
So thanks so much for that. And have a great rest of your evening.